This episode is brought to you by AV Luxury Design. AV Luxury Design provides automation solutions for homes and businesses. If you're looking to upgrade your space, check out their services such as automated lighting and security, distributed audio, theater rooms, landscape lighting, automated shades, and outdoor audio. I personally know the owner, Abiola, and he's guaranteed to make your upgrade experience seamless and fun. Check out avluxurydesign.com to learn more. Welcome back to another episode of That Westfield Podcast. Today we're joined by Tom Simpson of Chisel Loom. What's going on, Tom?
Hey, what's up, Amanda? Thank you very much for having me in today.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Of course. It's been really nice getting to know you. You're kind of in this like little entrepreneur circle that I'm making my way into with some guys like Abiola and Mike Zussman. So it's been nice getting to know you.
Correct. Yeah. The Pit.
The Pit. Yeah. If you're an entrepreneur in New Jersey, you got to check out the Pit. Ryan Robbins, really, really cool group. They're having a big event on April 6th, right? Down at, what's that place called? The
Barn at Howell is
the Friday night.
And Bell Labs, I believe.
Bellworks, that's what it's called. Yeah, that place is massive. So
yeah.
That'll be cool. But that's how we came across each other. But you have a really cool business up in Summit. Where Chatham. Not Summit.
104 Main Street.
104 Main Street. Oh, yeah, it's a nice little area. That's a great spot to be in.
It's right off 24.
Very cool. Very
accessible.
All right, tell everybody what Chisel Loom is. It's super unique and really cool, and how you got started in general.
Okay, so that's a big story. So we'll try to boil it down. So I'll tell you from the start, I was in a white collar job, commercial real estate, for a very large company. It was fun, but I definitely wanted to do something a little more creative, more product driven. So long story short, I ended up going to work at a sawmill. I did a bunch of different things for them, outside sales, worked at the mill for a period of time, especially during COVID. And during that time, I ended up meeting a company out in New York City that were headquartered in Belgium. And they had some really, really interesting products. Name of that company is Atmosphere and Bois. Bois is wood in French.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Learning so much. Okay.
So went to New York City, ended up forging a relationship, shipped a few containers of reclaimed wood from the U.S. to Belgium, which was great because now I do a lot of that in reverse.
Wow.
I ship wood from Belgium to the U.S.
Right.
So that was like a great learning experience for me in how to do those types of things. A lot of my business, even though I sell a lot of wood, is logistics, right?
Right,
Getting
totally.
material from point A to point B.
Right, especially since the pandemic.
Right. So worked at the mill. We were coming out of the pandemic. My son was born, and I said, you know what? Like, now is the time.
Right.
I went to the mill. I went to that mill with the intention of opening my own business. I knew that I was going on that path. So with regards to the name, I was trying to figure out, what am I going to call this business? You know, I kind of knew what I was going to be selling, a lot of wood products.
Right.
What am I going to call it, right? And I didn't want it to be very constricting, right? So I said, okay, you know, Chisel and Loom. Chisel represents hard surfaces, and Loom represents like soft surfaces.
Right.
Whether you join those two together, or they're two separate
That's a cool
things. And then it also invokes like, you know, handmade kind of quality materials. And then, you know, I have the logo. I don't know, I'm sure you have it on the screen here somewhere. But it's, you know, the cool chisel with like a piece of yarn that surrounds it. The yarn is supposed to be an ampersand.
Right.
But, you know, they did a great job.
Yeah, it's
Uniform
really cool.
Creations out of Elizabeth.
All right, shout out. Yeah,
job.
that's awesome.
Yeah. So started the business, ended up finding an interior designer who at the time was working out of her home, Colette Interiors. The name of her shop is Collected Living.
Cool.
I found a shop in Chatham. It was way more than I could afford. Her name's Trish. I called Trish up. I said, hey, I have this great spot in downtown Chatham, which is by her house. Would you want to come in on it with me? So somehow that ended up working out.
Wow, very cool.
You know, and it's just been a great experience. It's been really challenging, right? Because there's certainly a lot of challenges getting material from one continent to the next.
You don't say.
Right? Lead times can be very difficult.
Shipping costs must be outrageous right now.
Shipping costs are outrageous. So and then even getting material from like 50 miles away can be challenging when you're doing that from like thousands of miles away.
Right.
You have to be very careful, right? You have to be very careful as to what's ordered. You have to be very careful as to managing that process because, logistics people, if you find a good one, that's good, but it's tough to find a good one. It really is.
Right.
So I began to do a lot of that, right? Doing great projects, Hamptons, Northern Westchester County.
Very cool.
If you go on my Instagram, you can see some of those. They're not all my projects, but there are some of them that are in there that are really interesting, working with really interesting people. And then I started to build out my portfolio, right? Ended up finding some companies in the US, reclaimed wood suppliers, people that do European oak flooring in a little bit different fashion than what I was carrying.
Right.
And that's been really, really helpful, right? My objective really is somebody who's got a small business and a new business. I need to find something at almost every price point, right? I sell
makes sense.
to a lot of architects, builders, designers in the tri-state area. They don't always want to pay $25 a square foot, even though it might be a beautiful piece of material. They don't always want to pay that. So, my goal has really just been able to find something at every price point.
Well,
that works for everybody.
You're not like the guy who supplies like the very mediocre flooring from Home Depot. You were the guy who's importing stuff from Berlin, from around the world, really, like all these different kinds of woods to really bring a unique look to people's homes and businesses. So it's like, tell us a little bit more about the actual like quality of the wood and like some examples of what you bring here that people can't normally find in the US.
So, I had some experience. I went out to Paris through Reclaim Wood. Nice. I didn't think that was going to happen. I'm like, wow, this is a surprise. So I went out there, went to a trade show, and I, was exposed to just kind of different influences in design, and it really opened my eyes. The Belgians in particular are really, really good at using texture and color differently than we do here. I'm not saying one is better or the other. They just do it differently. Cool. And I was like, wow, this, I've never really seen this before. It's not really something I'm familiar with. And I know that just from being in the industry that a lot of people here haven't seen that before. So my objective is really bringing more of those materials here.
Right.
And being able to share that with the wonderful people of New Jersey.
That makes me think of, you ever watch Home Improvement back in the day when we were kids?
Of course.
There was an episode where they used to do like to figure out what it is by the way it smells. Al and Tim on the show. Maybe we'll do that in the next episode with you. Is we're going to blindfold you and have you smelling different woods.
I have done that before. I've done that before. I'm better at it than I should be. That's
a talent. But yeah, so it's like people don't even think about that stuff. They're always thinking about like the aesthetic, but it's a hardwood, or like, is this going to last a long time? But wood is just so beautiful. Like every piece is different. Everything is unique. So what's your favorite part about doing that kind of work?
So it can be very challenging, right? I do a lot of floors and I sell a lot of floors, and that can be challenging as well. But when you're doing beam jobs, right, for different clients, especially if they're like a large truss or something like that, you've got to be familiar with the species that you're using. Every species of wood acts differently in a certain space, looks differently, especially if you're using it exterior. You got to have a knowledge of exotic woods and cedar and things like that. So there's a lot of challenges to that, right? Because you need to make the right recommendation for a certain application. And that architect or that designer or that builder or even that homeowner is looking to you because they assume that you know
you should know
the answer. And it takes a long time to really understand that. You have to kind of go through processes where things don't go right, and you have to like go back to the drawing board and say what happened here.
Right.
Why did this happen? How can we prevent that from happening in the future? And you don't necessarily see that as much with other products. So so for me it's something that can be really challenging, which
that's fun though, right?
That's it's fun. Yeah, right.
Very cool. So, you've been doing this for almost 2 years now. It's like, have there been like trends changing that you've seen, or things that people are like what's hot right now and what you're bringing over and what you're selling?
So we'll stick to flooring, right? We'll just talk about that.
Okay.
A lot of times, historically, you've seen a lot of American hardwoods in homes, specifically American oak, right? I guarantee you that a lot of people that are watching this, they can look at their floors, and there's a good chance that they have 3.5 or 2.5 inch or 3.5 inch wide red oak, which is either done with just a sealer or stained somehow, and it's a solid piece, right? So you see that in any home that's built like pre-1960.
Right.
Those are just the way they did it. That was just the way they did it. Now, what you're beginning to see is a change to white oak, a change to much wider planks. Okay, you have less seams in a space, and it just makes it look more modern. It makes it look cleaner. And a lot of times when people use American oak, and I'm not necessarily knocking it, but you'll notice if you have a wide plank floor and it's American oak, you may see some stripiness to it, right? There's a part of the wood that's sapwood, which is the closest to the bark.
All right.
Inside a tree.
I'm acting like I know this, but
and then so there's sapwood and there's heartwood.
Okay.
You know, and those two types of wood, even though they're in the same tree, have different tones to them.
Wow.
So a lot of times an American oak floor, if they haven't defected it, can look very stripy in your home.
And most people wouldn't pick up on that until now. They're looking at their floors going, shit.
That's why I'm saying it. That's a sales
So
pitch.
you guys
That's
can call
like
Tom and fix your floors.
Manipulation, marketing.
I love it.
European oak, you don't see that as much.
Cool.
Species is a little more consistent. I'm not saying that there isn't sapwood that does exist in every single tree, but it is a much cleaner looking product.
Right.
So that's a big trend, right? That's a big trend.
Cool.
You're seeing a lot of, and to be honest with you, I don't know if but in Europe, the labor costs are much less expensive than they are here. So you can get a piece of European oak manufactured and shipped here for possibly less money than you can with an American manufacturer.
Very interesting. I'm learning so
there's
much.
a couple reasons,
Yeah. So you and I are working on a project together with this amazing, cool mushroom wood stool that you've already designed, and have you finished building out the prototype? By the time this airs, it'll be done for sure.
I hope so.
Yeah.
we're very close.
Tell us a little bit, like, what is mushroom wood, and like why are you so in love with the idea of this really cool stool that we're going to see around town? I think people are going to be carrying it around here too, which would be cool.
Well, if they're carrying it around, they really like it.
Yeah. Right.
So.
Boom.
So.
Jesus.
So here's a big thing. Here's a big thing with reclaimed wood, right? If you're like building out a furniture piece, right, and you want to sell 100 of those furniture pieces, let's just say, reclaimed wood can have a lot of variation to it, right? So if I give you one stool and I say, oh, this is made out of such and such, do you want that? Sure. I said, okay, I'll make it for you and I'll get it to you in a month.
Cool.
And then I bring you the other stool and it doesn't really look like what you, so that's a tough thing with reclaimed wood.
Gotcha.
Now, what I realized about mushroom wood, and I'll explain what mushroom wood is in a minute, is that it's very, very consistent.
Okay.
You can get 10,000 square feet of it, and it'll pretty much all look similar. The texture may be different between each piece, but if I'm put a piece in front of you and tell you that I'm going to get you a piece that looks like that,
right,
I'm pretty sure that I'm going to get you a piece that looks really close to that. So that was why I decided to use that material for that reason. Now, what is mushroom wood, right? Because people are probably wondering that right now. Mushroom wood is, they use it, 80% of the supply in the U.S. of mushrooms comes from Pennsylvania.
Did not know that.
Specifically, southeastern Pennsylvania. Okay. And a lot of the farms, more the old school farms, not the newer age modern ones, but a lot of them use hemlock boards as beds, right? And so those boards are inside a warehouse that is very dark, that gets humidity pumped into it, that has compost on top of it, right? So it goes through this rapid aging process. So what you might see on a barn in terms of texture might take you 80 to 100 years to accomplish.
Very cool. Wow.
Whereas in a piece of mushroom wood, that might happen in 10 to 15 years. So there's a very, very large supply of this material. And it's got very interesting texture. So the stool that I'm making, which I hope
can't wait to see this
premiere
thing
pretty soon.
Can't wait to sit on it.
Is going to be obviously cylindrical. It's going to have a top on it. I came up with like 6 or 7 different fabrics, different colors, just in case, whatever works for somebody's space.
Right.
And the inside is hollow, so it's kind of got a little storage space in there.
Right.
And then, what you and I are working on, which is really kind of a bigger view that I have, a bigger mission that I have for Chisel and Loom, is there's going to be a QR code on the point of sale, right? So if you're in a store somewhere and you see a mushroom wood stool, I'm going to call it the Porto, by the way.
Porto, okay.
Porto.
I love that.
Yeah. So thank you. So if you see the Porto there, then you'll be able to hit that QR code and it'll bring you to a video of, how that stool was put together, and the story of that stool, not so different than the story that I just told right now, right?
Very cool.
I think that there's on a larger scale, there's a lack of transparency in this industry. And I think there's just a lot of, I don't want to call it low-hanging fruit, but, the big companies that are driving this industry are, I plan on doing it differently.
Yeah, and
I'll
better.
just put it that way. Plan on doing it differently.
Good for you, man.
Transparency is always good, right?
Yeah.
And we see that a lot in our world that we're living today.
So
see
much.
a lot of transparency in how things are made and things like that, and people appreciate that, right?
Yeah.
So you just kind of want to like go with that and make people happy about what they buy.
Yeah,
Get
show them what you
them
do,
excited.
why you do it, and why it's important, and it's really unique. I think I can't wait to see this thing, and I can't wait to film it even more so, and
I'm excited
try
too.
to capture the beauty of it and just let everyone see. Like, there's not many people doing craftsman work these days. Like, it's so niche now because everything is just big box store, and so people definitely appreciate the hard work that you do.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see it. So tell everybody where they can find you, Instagram, website, all that good stuff.
So Instagram is Chisel and Loom, A-N-D written out, Chisel and Loom. And you can find me at 104 Main Street in Chatham, New Jersey. It's right off 24 if you're in Westfield or Cranford or Scotch Plains, wherever you are.
Quick ride.
It's a quick ride.
Yeah.
It is by appointment for now because I am the only employee of my company, so I spend a lot of time on the road. But if you shoot me an email or a text or a phone call and you say, hey, can I come by at this time? 9 times out of 10, I'll make sure that I'm there and show you around.
Perfect. Yeah, your work is beautiful. I've seen some pictures, and you're just a great guy also on top of it to work with. So
Thank you, Amanda.
I'm so excited for you, for your business to grow, for this Porto's the pizza place.
In Asbury.
That place is so good too.
It's a great place.
You should see if they need some wood. No, they're
I will.
We're gonna call them right now. All right, guys. Tom, thank you so much. It was a pleasure, and I can't wait to see you again. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you.